Thank you for being here.
She's doing well. Thank you.
Doing well. Well, thank you for being here.
Morning, everyone.
So I don't know if you remember Scott Corso.
Thank you for being here.
All right, so while they get Ms. Schindler set up, I will remind you that your electronic devices do not belong out today. However, if you think of a question that you would like to ask, if you have your index card, you can write it on the index card. And when it's time to ask questions, if your question, if you want to read your question, you come up here. There's a blue dot right here, or blue tape on the ground. You stand here, and you can direct your questions at Ms. Schindler here. This picks you up. This camera will pick you up. Okay, so just keeping that piece in mind. All right. And in fact, I would recommend that they can set up what it is. So why don't you take out something for a look at an index card of the event, if you think of a question, you write
Texas. This is crazy. Good crazy. Books everywhere, huh? Rose Schindler, PowerPoint, pick one down.
On to, oh, the Rose Schindler PowerPoint. Yeah, thank you.
So,
Okay, let's throw your hands up. Throw both hands up.
we'll take a sip before we start. And let's take this off so when we talk.
Totally in from again.
When we talk.
Testing.
Try to see your cell phone stay out of your hands. If you have a question, write it on it.
What's that? Bring up the PowerPoint. Okay, now start talking.
Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, I should say. Trying to test this.
Okay, there you go. Now try.
Can you hear me?
There you go. Okay. That should be good. There he goes.
I have to do the whole quickly.
Can I introduce Mom?
Yeah.
Morning, everyone. Good afternoon, sorry. Thanks for coming. Happy to see you guys are in school. Happy to know that these masks are going to be gone soon when we all get vaccinated. And I just want to tell you a minute about Mom. So if you ever heard or experienced my mom, Rose Schindler, she's been in Powerhouse for about 50 years, telling her story to students. It's a scary story that ends up as a love story, so it's not all bad. And then a few years ago, we were lucky enough to have someone come to her and say, "Would you like me to write this down as a memoir?" And she wrote a personal memoir, first person, just like Anne Frank's diary or Elie Wiesel's Night, if you've read either of those. And that's what we ended up with. And that's kind of changed everything for my mom. Unfortunately, about 6 months ago, she started saying, something's wrong, I'm feeling weak, it's not right. Didn't have a good vocabulary to describe it except that. And after about 3 months of medical testing, we found out that the breast cancer she had back in 2017 had metastasized. I'm sure some of you guys have been through that with your families. And so her metastasized cancer ended up going into her bones. It's called adenocarcinoma. It basically makes your bones hurt. And so that's what she felt was a lot of bone pain. We finally figured it out after test after test after test after test. And then the good news is there's a new chemo drug called Ibrance that's targeted for her exact kind of metastasized cancer that she took for a month, and things started getting a little bit better the way she felt, like now. A month ago, she wouldn't be sitting here. I'm too tired, I can't do it. But we kind of turned a little corner for now. She's on her second month of Ibrance. It's 21 days on, 7 days off, because it knocks your white blood cell count down, so they don't want you to get too immunocompromised. She'll do 3 of those, and then we'll test her again. God willing, it'll put this stuff on the back burner. And so this drug is kind of like her life extension pills, right? As long as this stuff works, she can keep taking it. It'll keep the cancer on its back heels. So and with that, this is Rose Schindler.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm glad I can still continue doing what I've been doing for over 50 years, by the way. So I really wouldn't mind to speak all the time, but it's not in me anymore. So hopefully there's a lot that you can see on the screen, because every time I'm speaking at schools, they tape it. So if you wouldn't mind watching the screen, I would really appreciate that, okay? And if anybody has any questions.
Mom, we're setting up for your talk.
Huh?
We're setting up for your talk.
Okay.
We're not setting up for the movie.
Okay.
We're setting up for your talk.
Okay.
What she means is she's got a YouTube channel, and after today, if you want to go home or share it with your friends, it's the Rose Schindler channel on YouTube, and you can watch her whole talk. And that's also our plan B at these events, if for whatever reason she can't. And frankly, 6 days ago, she was at an event with 500 people where she was the keynote speaker and she couldn't. We played a video, but since then she's done it once, and so now we're going to work on doing it twice.
Okay. Thank you.
Rose Schindler, my mom.
Thank you. So is the tape on?
Mom, you're going to talk. We're just doing the PowerPoint show. You're going to tell your story. My name is Rose Schindler. I'm born in 1929. Okay, get her started.
Okay. My name is Rose Schindler. I was born in 1929. I'll be 62 years old in December.
92.
Excuse me. I wish I was 60.
Wishes.
92. And the thing is, I've been doing this for so many years. And so this is only the second time this past few months that I've done this. And I really would like to do it, but I think it would be so much better if you would listen to it on the tape.
Mom, we don't have the tape.
You don't?
No, please.
At all?
Please tell your story.
Okay.
You look beautiful. You're here. You're seated. Comfortable.
I thought you had the tape.
Okay?
I hope you're taping it this time.
Mom, don't worry. We won't need this tape.
Okay. All right. So this happened when I was in 1944.
1938.
We were taken away in 1944. The war started in 1938. Okay. I was born in Czechoslovakia. Okay. Things were going we never thought anything so horrible was advancing, what was going to happen to us, okay? But this is going on till 1944.
Do you want to tell them a little bit about your family? We've got a picture of your mother and your father
Yes.
on the screen.
Yes, I come from a family of 8 children. We lived in a village. We lived in a 3-room house. We lived, nobody can imagine how we lived. We had no electricity, we had no indoor plumbing. It's just unbelievable how we lived, but we didn't have any better, so we didn't miss it, okay? So this is going on till 1944, okay?
What happened in 1938?
In 1938, Hitler came into power, okay? And Hungary was part of Hitler's group, okay? They came in and took over Hungary, and actually it was Czechoslovakia, not Hungary, all right? Czechoslovakia, and then Hungary took over, and Hungary was an ally of Hitler, okay? So they left us at home for almost 5 years, okay? And then in 1944, of course, all the Jewish people in our town were business people. My father was a tailor. He had a shop.
There's a picture on the screen.
Yeah, okay. And everything was a great country before the Second World War. But when this started, all the Jewish, little by little, they're taking all the Jewish businesses away. And in 1944, they started taking people to Auschwitz, Poland. I don't know how many have seen some of the movies from the Second World War. But we were very religious, by the way, Orthodox Jews, and we never believed God would. How the world allowed this to happen. And the thing is, what was happening, the whole world did not try to help us. Okay? So we were taken away to Auschwitz.
Why don't you tell them the story about your father before you left for Auschwitz, Mom? You're wearing a chain.
Okay, I'm wearing my father's pocket watch chain. Okay? When I get out of bed, this is the first thing that goes on my neck. Before we left the house, before we were taken away, my father was able to hide a few things, okay? So we opened.
How did you know where they were?
Well, because my father told I had 2 older sisters and an older brother, and I had 4 younger sisters and a brother. And my father said to my 2 older sisters and me, come with me, I want to show you where I'm going to hide a few pieces of jewelry, so when you come back, you know where it is. And my 2 older sisters said, they don't want any part of it. I'm sorry. Every time I think about this, I start crying.
It's okay, Mom. You can
So-
do this.
Yeah, anyway, so my 2 older sisters said they don't want any part of it. So I said to my dad, I'm going to go with you. So we hid the jewelry. There was not much jewelry in those days anyway. He put a few pieces of jewelry in a shoe polish box. You know what a shoe polish box is? I don't think how many people use that. But anyway, so he cleaned out the shoe polish box, and then he had my father's pocket watch, his wedding band, and maybe one other piece, and the same thing with my mother, okay? Because we didn't have jewelry in those days, the kids. So this is one of my father's pocket watch chain. So anyway, so my 2 sisters said, they don't care about the jewelry, they don't want to go look. I said to my father, I'll go with you. So
You
we
can see the
hid
chain in the wedding photo.
So we hid the jewelry and between the ceiling and the wall. My dad opened up an area, maybe something for a shoe polish box size, okay? Because there wasn't much jewelry in those days. So I went with my father, and I had to step up on probably a chair or 2, I don't know, to get to the top, okay? And so anyway, so we hid it, and we covered it with dirt so nobody could see what it is, okay? Anyway, so,
Thank you.
and after we were liberated, after the war, we were liberated, I knew exactly where it was. So the first thing when we came home after the war, we would go, I said to my sisters, come with me, let's go get the jewelry. So we found a chair and we stood up and it was between the ceiling and the wall. And then we divided the jewelry between the three of us. And I ended up at this home. And actually, after my sisters passed away, if there was anything else left, I had it too. Anyway, so this had all started in 1944, okay? There was about 16 or 1800 people living in the whole village. We lived in a village, okay? Nobody can imagine how we lived compared to today. We had no electricity, we had no indoor plumbing, we had, and everything we ate, we had to grow. There were no stores where you could go buy a whole bunch of stuff, like here. We all had chickens, we had cows, everything that we needed, we had. And it was great before the war, but during the war, it all went to hell. So anyway, so we are taking away
So April 44,
April 44,
half a dozen Nazis.
okay. We have Easter and we have Passover. You have Easter and we have Passover. You know something? Every memory is not as good as it was before.
If you remember, some Nazis came into town.
Okay, so 1944, about, I would say March of 1944, 2 or 3 SS soldiers marched, maybe 4, I don't know. SS soldiers marched into a town. We had no idea who they were, and we had no idea that anything so bad was advanced and coming to us, okay? And so we had Passover, just like when we have Passover, you have Easter. And you know, of course, remember that,
Glad you
that
can still
the
joke.
Jewish people are the ones that I think came into the world first anyway, so.
Just the religion did.
Literally, right, anyway. So going to happen to us. We never imagined something so horrible was in advance. So we had Passover. Passover is 7 days, 1 week, and we don't eat bread during Passover. We eat matzahs, like those big 12 by 12 crackers. Anyway, so we had Passover, and then one day after Passover, we had no newspapers, we had no radios, we had no information of what's going on in the world. This is how we lived. But we didn't miss it because we never had it. But anyway, so this one day after Passover, maybe 2 days, there's announcements made. How do you get to people to hear what's going on? So, we all had farmers markets, by the way. This is how you have it here in this country. All the European people brought their farmers markets over here. And so we had farmers markets, and once a week, we would go to the farmers market because we all had all kinds of animals and we would have extra food, extra stuff to exchange with, you know what I mean? So,
Order.
yes, barter, right. So anyway, so 2 days after, and so here we are, one day after Passover, the middle of town where we used to have the farmers markets, somebody in charge of the town. We had, as I said, we had no radios, no information, no papers, no nothing. They used the drum. They used the drum to get the people together, okay? And the drum is going, and they're saying all the Jewish people are going to be shipped away. Everybody is entitled to bring one bag, okay? One bag or one, we had no suitcases because we never traveled, okay? But we did have, bags and stuff like that because we had a fabric store in my town. So we would go to the fabric store and get some bags, okay? Anyway, so this has been done, and so the next day, we are all entitled to bring one bag, and they said if anybody has, listen, they said if anybody has any money or jewelry, bring it with you, and we're gonna give it back to you when you come back. You know what BS means, right? So of course, all the Jewish people in our village, they hid all the stuff that they had underground. They would dig holes in the underground because we all had big lots, by the way, because we used to grow everything that we needed. People would hide a lot of stuff underground. And you know something? It's probably still there because so many people did not come back. I would say out of 600 Jewish people that were in this village, I don't think 100 people came back after the war.
No, there were less than 23
Yeah.
survivors from Srebrenica.
I thought about 23 people.
That's all there was.
Yes, but who knows if they came?
That's all there was. It's
Yeah.
documented.
Oh, it is documented? From 600 people, can you believe that? Maybe some of them didn't want to come back, or they knew all the information, so they stayed.
So you're going to Usharad, you're getting rounded up.
Yes, so they took us to, we had no public transportation in our village. Everything was done by legs, feet, okay? So, but then, since we did not have any buses or anything, they would put us on oxen-driven wagons, okay? And they put us on this oxen-driven wagon. It was a city, maybe 20,000 people or more. And they brought all the villages from the whole area over there because we had no train stations in our town. There was no trains, and maybe if there was a train station, it probably didn't work during the war, okay? Because I think I remember there were trains, whatever.
Tracks.
The tracks, okay? So anyway, so they took us there, and they brought all the people from all the villages over there. There must have been thousands of people. And there was no buildings because it was a train station, okay? Because that train station would go all over that part of the world. And so they must have been, I don't know how many miles, all the people coming there and staying there. They had little tents. They set up some tents for us, okay? Because this is April or maybe close to May in 1944. And thank God it was not too cold because, you know, where we lived, we had snow coming in the fall and leave in the spring. It was very cold weather. So anyway, so they put us on these oxen-driven wagons and they took us to the next, and here we are, anyway, so they had tents with I don't even remember how we slept over there. It's such a long time ago. So little by little, the train was there and they were shipping away all the people. We had no idea what was going on in the world because there was no information there. Remember, we had no radios. Maybe there was 1 or 2 radios in the whole village. Okay, but if anybody did have it in those days, they would tell them they have to bring it to the main office because nobody is allowed to have it. Anyway, so here we are in this place, and after a while, our turn came, and they took us on the train. They told us to get on the train. We got on the train, and the train took probably, I don't know, maybe a day or so.
2.5 days.
I don't know how long.
2.5 days.
You see, I don't know, but
You do know.
It's probably information to go to Auschwitz, Poland. They put people, it was not really
It was cattle car.
cattle cars. They squeezed in probably 70, 80 people in every cattle car. And they took us about 2.5 days to get to Auschwitz, Poland. I don't know if anybody saw any of the movies from the Second World War. Auschwitz was the worst place in the world. Anyway, so after being and they would put in 70 or 80 people in every cabin. You couldn't even move around. There was no water, there was no bathroom, nothing. So you can imagine being 2.5 days in a place where you cannot go anywhere, you cannot do anything. Pretty horrible situation. Anyway, so after about 2.5 days or so, the train is slowing down.
She's
and-
14 years old at this point, so
Yeah, I was 14.
kind of tangible
14
for you
and a
guys.
half, okay. So the train slowed down and it opened up and became coming off the train, and there is SS soldiers separating us. All the men.
What about the man who talked to you on the train car?
Oh, yes, because we all came with a lot of luggage too. So men came to help us with our luggage, okay? My son Ben knows more than me already. Well, I've been speaking over 50 years, you know that. Anyway, so,
It's a miracle you can still do this, Mom.
anyway, so where am I?
So it's the Jewish prisoner who's going to tell you what to do on the
They came
train.
to help us with our luggage, okay? Because we all came with luggage. And you know, all the work was done by our own people. If you wouldn't do it, they would kill you. We had no choice. All the horrible things have been done by our own people. Anyway, so this man comes on the train to help us with our luggage. And he says to me, "How old are you?" I said, "I am 14. He says, "Tell him you're 18. I had no idea what he was talking about. And he was trying to save a lot of people that way, okay? So we go out of the train and we come in, there's 3 SS soldiers and they're separating us. All the men in one line, all the men and all.
Working age man.
Yeah, working, yes. Men in one line, women and children in another line, and women workers in another line. So my mother went with my mother took 3 sisters and a brother. I never saw them again after that day. My father, I had an older brother and 2 older sisters, and I was older too. I mean, I was,
In the middle.
yeah, okay. Anyway, so my father and my brother were supposed to go to this line, my mother and the 3 sisters and brothers to this line, and he asked me, "How old are you?" I said, "I am 18. So my sister Helen didn't know. I had told her sisters, okay? She didn't know that I was told to lie about my age. She said, "Oh, she's only 14. I said, "No, I'm 18. He let me go with my sisters,
Older sisters.
my 2 older sisters. Otherwise, I would have gone into the gas chamber with my mother. I have never seen my mother and 3 sisters and brothers again. So the SS let me go with my 2 older sisters, because my older sister Helen said, "Oh no, she's only 14. But you see, she had no idea about anything. So anyway, so here we are. So finally, we're waiting for further orders, and then they march us into a building. They marched us into the building, and they told us, everybody called. They kept, men and women were separated completely, okay? So they told us to take all our clothes off in this big building. I would probably say a big room like this, okay? And maybe it wasn't that big, but it probably could have been, okay? And then they shaved all our hair, not only our head, everywhere. They shaved the hair, okay? The reason they shaved the hair is because there was I can't think of
Hygiene.
no hygiene available, okay? So they shaved our hair and the body and the head, and then, first of all, of course, they told us to take all our clothes off and put it on one side, okay? Then they shaved our hair, and actually there were some German soldiers, SS soldiers, taking pictures of us, okay? I remember that. And then they told us to go to this line and pick up some clothes. Rags, absolute rags, no underwear, no nothing, just a junk dress. Because you know when you travel, you're always going to travel in your good clothes, right? You're not going to travel in your bad clothes. So of course we all traveled in our best clothes. So they gave us rags, and then of course they shaved up the hair all over the whole body was shaved off, all the hair. And then we were waiting for further orders, and Actually, I saw an SS soldier in that room. He was taking pictures when we were all naked and stuff like that in that room. Anyway, so then after a while, they finally told us to get a dress. There was a pile of clothes. They said, everybody pick up a dress. No shoes, no socks, just clogs, okay? And this is probably, I would say, the end of April 1944, or maybe beginning of May already. So we were lucky that this happened in the summer. If this would have happened in the winter, we would have not, I wouldn't be here. Nobody would be here from the winter. So here we are, we're all shaved, all the hair shaved, and we all have rags, clothes, not decent clothes, no underwear, no nothing, clogs. And then after standing there, who knows how many hours, finally they decided to march us into the living quarters. They march us in, and there's three
Rows of bunks.
rows of people. You know, they did the same thing to all the gypsies in Europe. The gypsies got also completely destroyed the same way. You know how the gypsies used to live in Europe? We used to have gypsies in our town. They used to live in the forests. And they would always have carriages, and they would come and, sell stuff and stuff like that. They never had homes. They would always go from place to place. Anyway, so all the gypsies were taken and all the Jews. So anyway, so here we are. And so finally they take us into the barrack, and it says, Arbeit macht das Leben frei. Work makes for freedom. And we are all people older that we can go to work, factories to work. Because all the mothers and the children, all under young kids, they went straight into
And the old people. And all the elderly.
And all the old, straight into the gas chamber. Never saw them again, okay? And the world was silent while this was going on. Nobody tried to help us. God was Roosevelt. He never did anything for us. The world doesn't know what they lost, because you don't know. There could have been one good Jew, because the Jewish people believe in education very strong, okay? Always education. One of them could have maybe found cancer, a disease for cancer, okay?
Sure.
So anyway, so here we are. So there's 3 camps, a gypsy camp, a Czech camp, and a Hungarian camp. And they said, Arbeit macht, they said, work makes for freedom. So we go into this camp, there's 30 barracks, okay? Every barrack holds
1,000.
1,000 women. Okay, we have 3 rows of bunks, okay? No blankets, nothing, just 3 rows of bunks. And I said the gypsies and the Czechs and the Hungarians. I was part of the Hungarian. So we go into the barrack, and as I said, it's an Arbeit macht Leben frei, which means work makes for freedom. So, and we're mostly all older people, women that will go to work, okay? Because all the young kids and the mothers and the sick and the old and all went straight into the gas chambers, okay? Nobody can imagine how this was going on. Anyway, so here we are, we go to sleep. My 2 sisters and I ended up on the top bunk, okay, with probably 4 or 5 other women. We go to sleep, and then in the morning we get up, and we get coffee for breakfast in a pot, maybe a 5-quart pot, a sip of coffee. It tasted like black soot, okay? Was not really coffee. Anyway, so I said to my sisters, I want to go outside. I want to see what's going on. I go outside, and I see all these barracks, 30 barracks over there, and there's people outside. Dead people on the street. Actually, there was no street, it's just areas. Dead people. Unbelievable. We can't even explain how it looked like. And I'm walking, and we have the electric fences. Okay, because there's a Czech, Hungarian, and the
Gypsy.
okay, Czech, Hungarian, and the gypsies, they were separated with electric fences, okay? So I go outside and I see this, and I see a lot of, and those fences there are like feet high. Okay? But who would think that they are dangerous fences, okay? People didn't know. So many people would touch these fences and they would die within 20 seconds. No time whatsoever. You touch it and blood comes out of the nose and you're gone. Unbelievable to even explain. Anyway, so I'm walking and I'm looking around to see what was going on, and somebody calls my name. Roisy, that was my Jewish name. I said, my God, I knew I was popular, but I didn't know I was so popular that somebody should know me in this God-forsaken place. It was my father. And you see my father, you saw a picture of my father. He had a beard and he was well dressed. He had a tailor shop. Always a gentleman. And this man was completely shaven with a striped uniform. Actually, it wasn't a uniform, just a dress. I don't know what they called it. He says, Roisy, don't you recognize me? I'm your father. We hugged and we kissed. And he says to me, I am here with your brother Philip. And he says to me, where are your sisters? I said, my sisters are in the barrack. We are 3 of us. And I don't know where my mother and my 4 sisters and brothers are. So my father said, well, they're probably in heaven someplace by now, okay? But I had no idea what he was even talking about in those days. Anyway, we hugged and kissed. And I told him I have my 2 sisters here. And my father said, he is here only for a day or 2 with my brother. They were selected to go to a factory to work already. And so he is giving us advice. He says, whatever you do, stay together because you have a much better chance of surviving. Okay? So, and then we said goodbye.
And stay alive.
Oh, he said, whatever you do, stay alive so you can tell the world what they're doing to us. Okay? So we made up to meet the next day, and my father brought my brother with him, and I told my 2 sisters to come with us, and we met, and he repeated the same thing. Whatever you do, stay alive so you can tell the world what they're doing to us. And I've been doing this for over so many years, I can't even remember. Anyway, I've been doing this, by the way, for over 50 years, okay? When one of my sons he was 13 and he was in Lewis Junior High. Did anybody ever go to Lewis Junior High? No, huh? That's in Allied Gardens, in your college area. And anyway, so here we are. What was I going to say?
Steve and the Anne Frank show.
Oh, yes. So my son Steve, by the way, I have 4 children. I have 9 grandchildren. And I have 1 great-grandchild and another great-grandchild. Okay. So my son Steve, who is 60, who's going to be 63 next March, he was in the Anne Frank play. And the teacher found out that his grandparents and his parents are Holocaust survivors at Lewis Junior High. I don't know if anybody knows where that school is. Okay? So, and as I said, he's 62, he's going to be 63. And when the teacher found that out, he started speaking at schools about the Holocaust. Okay? So, anyway, so here we are, and I haven't stopped speaking ever since. Of course, the past 2-3 months, I haven't been very well. Okay, I have this terrible disease, and so anyway, let's see what do I want to say.
So you're in Auschwitz. Why don't you tell them what you get for lunch?
Like what?
Lunch at Auschwitz.
Oh,
We know what
yeah.
you got for breakfast.
Breakfast, we had coffee. They have pot of coffee. A small pot of coffee, take a sip. You can poison yourself by taking a sip of it. Lunchtime, you would get a slice of bread and a piece of margarine. That's it. And dinner time, you would get soup. You always had to go outside and line up 5 in a row. Soup. They give a pot, maybe a pot of soup, maybe a 3 or 4 pot soup, or maybe 10 people. It's nothing but dirt and sand in the soup.
Cabbage.
Maybe some cabbage, okay?
Cabbage and potato.
Yeah, horrible stuff. not for human beings. Anyway, so Auschwitz was really a place where people come and they go. They don't, nobody stays there because this is, that's where they do selections all the time to send people to factories to work. So we couldn't even, the only thing that we could eat was a piece of bread with a little margarine. The rest of the stuff was not edible. So here we are in this place, and so we are in this barrack. There's 1,000 women in every barrack, okay? 3 rows of bunks. And every 2-3 days they would come, maybe 4 days, they would come and select people to go to factories to work. They only saved the people that needed to go to factories to work. So here we are already there, and we did not go right away, but after 5-6 days, we decided to go and get selected to leave because it was horrible. Nobody can imagine the situation we were in. I mean, unbelievable. And you know, the whole world was silent while this was going on. Nobody tried to help us. Anyway, so finally, after being there 6 or maybe 7 days, who knows how long, we said, well, it's time to get out of this godforsaken place. So we go, line up 5 in a row, and they put us, the people they want to go to factories to work, they put them in one line, and the people that are skin and bone, that are not capable of working, they put them in a gas chamber. So me, I was always very thin at home, by the way. I was always a very fussy eater. My mother would always spank me because I wouldn't eat the food. But that's how I was, a young girl, you know. But anyway, I only liked certain things. So anyway, so we know what's going on, and then you know, when you are in a place like this, people give you advice. If they ask you how old you are, tell them you're older. Don't tell them you're young, because if you tell them you're young, they put you in the gas chamber. Okay, and also by being 5-6 days in Auschwitz, and you don't eat the food, you probably lose 10 pounds by then. So here we are. So after 5-6 days, we decided to go line up to get out of this godforsaken place. And of course, they didn't choose me to go to a factory to work. And you know, when you're in a place, people tell you what to do. They give you advice. They tell you, if you don't stay together with your sisters, get out of line, make sure nobody sees you, okay? And wait for them to come and get you. So the first few times we went, and they did this to me, and then my sister said, we're not going to go get selected to go to work anymore, because my sister, because of me, they would not take me to any factory to work. I was always very thin, and being there, say maybe 5 days or maybe 10 days, probably skin and bone, okay? Anyway, so we decided we're going to wait for the war to end, because this is not 1944, okay? And some part of the world was already liberated. Do you know that? Some part of European countries were already liberated. And you know, we always would meet in the middle of the camp to listen to some gossip and news. There was no news, but you know, the people always tried to bring news so we should survive. Good news, even though it had nothing to do with nobody. We just have to hope that God will help us someday. Anyway, so after being there in Auschwitz, say a month or more, we went again to get selected, and they all 2-3 times, each time they put me in the gas chamber line. But you see, I was always very...
Go ahead, Mom. What happened after a couple of months in Auschwitz?
Okay, so after a couple of months,
Your cousins.
we found out cousins are in charge of the food in barrack number 3. And you know, when you have cousins in charge of food, you know, you're going to get an extra slice of bread, right? So we were in barrack 26, and they were in barrack number 3. So we went to barrack number 3, and they were so happy to see us. They didn't even know we were there, but we somehow found out. And of course, every day we would get an extra slice of bread, maybe a little something else. It was like heaven compared to what we had before. So of course, after being there for 3-4 weeks, my cousins had decided they are leaving. They're not staying any longer. Okay. So, of course, we were afraid. Of course, by being there maybe 10 days, I must have put on a couple of pounds because we had extra bread and all that. So we were afraid to get selected to go to work because my sisters thought they wouldn't take me. But finally, after being there, say 2 months, and my cousins left already, and they came to our barrack. They said they need 300 women to go to a factory in Austria, okay?
Freudenthal, Germany.
Yes, they said in German, but it's Austria. So I said to my sisters, you go, and being in that barrack, I did put a few pounds on and I felt a lot better. I said, go get selected, keep a place for me in line, and I'll run into the line, okay? So we did that, and after they needed 300 women, and I snuck myself into the line. My sister kept the place for me. And of course, being in Auschwitz, excuse me, I have to put it down. Being in Auschwitz a couple of months or 3 months, Anyway, so they come and they said they need 300 women. And so I said to my sisters, you go and get in line, and I'll see how I can steal myself into the transport. So, 5 in a row, always 5 in a row, people, okay? So I steal myself into this transport, and it worked. And of course, for 2 months, or maybe more than 2 months, we were in Auschwitz-Birkenau. We didn't have a shower, we did not have a cleaning, we did not have anything. We were full of lice. We couldn't sleep at night. Our bodies were full of lice. Would you believe that? So they're not going to send us anywhere in that condition. So of course, they selecting us to go to the factory to work. They shave our hair all over again, everywhere, not only the head, everywhere else too. And they use, what do they call
They
it?
disinfected your body.
Disinfected our bodies, okay, because to get rid of the lice.
They cleaned you up.
They cleaned us up, and they gave us decent clothes, underwear, shoes, and socks. They were sending us to a factory to work in Germany. Austria.
Germany.
Well, it's Germany, right. So I tell you, if I wasn't what I was, I would have never survived that place. You have to be full of energy and full of things, So many women, they couldn't take it, and they would go on the electric fences, put their hands on the electric fences. 20 seconds later, they were dead. They couldn't take it anymore. So anyway, so here we are. So they sent us to a factory to work in Germany. Decent clothes, underwear, everything, like heaven, okay?
There we go.
And I don't know how much time we have.
Go ahead, you're in Freudenthal.
Okay, so
You can do it quick now.
yeah, we're going to Freudenthal, 300 women, all shaved, decent clothes, good clothes. And so I was assigned to work on gas masks. Can you believe that, gas masks? So I had to sit on a high chair, kind of, and pick a gas mask up and put it in my face and down. 12 hours every day. 12 hours every day. So we worked, and they gave us decent food. We had a building where we had blankets and we had mattresses. They treated us like human beings. Because, if you want somebody to do something good for you, you got to treat them well. Otherwise, it doesn't work. So here we are in Freudenthal in Germany, and April 1945. And every morning they would come to the building and they would march us to the factory to work, okay? So, and we're waiting for them to come and get us, and nobody's coming. And I said to my sisters, I want to go outside and I want to know what's going on. You see, I was very active all the time. Some of the things were not very good, but a lot of them were good. So she says, you can't go outside, they're going to shoot you. I go and I see the door in the building is white, it's not locked. They used to lock it every night. The night before, the SS did not lock the door. because they knew that the Russians are coming. They're going to liberate them. So it's open, and I said, I'm going outside. I go outside of the building, and the gate, we had electric fences, by the way, okay, all around us. And the gate was wide open, and I hear planes going all over us, and I hear the Russian language, okay? And so I'm outside, and everybody's in the building. They're afraid to come out. I was the youngest person probably over there, okay? And I'm screaming to them, they should come out, but I don't remember if they came out or not. So I go, and behind the building where we lived, we had a couple of buildings, they were growing corn. You know what corn is, right? A lot of us are growing corn sometimes. So they were coming through the cornfields, the Russian soldiers, okay? And the Russian language, we kind of knew some of the Russian language because where we lived, a lot of people were speaking the Russian language. So I was screaming to the building. I said, "Listen, guys, come out! I think the Russians are liberating us." I don't remember if they came out or not. But anyways, I'm going in the back of the building and into where the corn is, and the Russians are coming and meeting us, and they liberated us. They were very good for us. Okay. So here we are, liberated Russians, Jews. We were 300 women, okay? Anything we needed, they would go and get it for us, okay? They even took us to town to get some, because all we had was one set of clothing, one set of underwear, one set of dresses, and we would, once a week, take a shower and we would get clean clothes over there. So we could always use the second stuff, okay? So I said to my sisters, I want to go to town. The Russian soldier asked me if I want to go, and because we could use maybe some food or whatever. So we went to town and we brought that, because all the Germans, they ran away. When the Russians were coming, the Germans were afraid, because the Germans, and they knew the Russians are very easy with the guns. They shoot like crazy, okay? So the Russians did a lot of good job for us. They helped us. They told us that we could take all the clothes we can find, what we need. And anyway, so here we are in this place for a couple of 2 weeks, and finally we decided we need to leave, okay? And so we left, okay? We're going home. We were hoping that some of our family members were still alive. We had no idea what was happening at that time. So anyway, it took us about 4 weeks to get home, because the trains did not run like today, I mean, we came home, and our house was not livable. The SS kept their horses in our house. But maybe 20 people, we had 600 Jewish people living in our village. I think maybe there were 20 people, okay? So some of the people that were coming, they got their houses back, furnished and everything.
Tell them how you found out about your father and your brother.
So anyway, here we are, and we're hoping that my father's coming home from the war. We knew what happened to my mother and sisters and brothers. Somebody was coming back from the war, and he was telling me he was with my father in a camp. My father got sick, and then they took him and they killed him. They put him in the gas chamber. And then I had a brother who was older than me. He was working in a factory. He did very well, because somebody came back from the same camp, and he told me what happened while they were in camp. And he said they were in a factory, they were working on SS uniforms, and they did very well. But a few days before the war ended, the SS took out a lot of survivors.
Took everybody out of the camp.
They took them out of the camp and marched them into the forest, made them dig a big hole, and they killed everybody. So this guy that's telling me the story, I said, how did you survive? He says, I couldn't leave the barrack. I was in the bunk bed, I couldn't get out. And all the healthy ones left. He is the one that survived, and he knew my brother. So we knew what happened to my brother. They dug a big hole, and all the men were killed and shot into the big hole, okay? So anyway, so here we are, and of course, we found out that my father was sick in camp because somebody came home that was with my father in a camp, and my father did not survive. In fact, tell you where they were. Okay, when somebody got sick, they did not save them; they killed them right away. Okay. Anyway, so here we are. And so my sister Helen says, "I want to leave." By the way, when we were at the train station leaving in Germany, there were so many people from different areas of the train station. My sister met a Czech Jewish soldier at the train station, and they fell in love. It was a very good-looking young man, and so was my sister. Okay, they fell there because we were at the train station 3 days waiting to get on the train. Okay, so before we separated, he gave the key to his house in Prague. He gave it to my sister Helen. She's an older sister, and Judy was an older sister. And they said, "Here is my key to my house in Prague. You go home, see who survived, and then you come and live with me, okay?" So, of course, this Czech Jewish soldier left, and the next day we got on the train. And anyway, so we, as I said, when we came home and we found out about my father and my brother, that they're gone, okay? So Helen says, "I'm going to Prague." So my sister Helen left, okay? And Judy and I stayed behind. We were living with somebody else. We did not live in my house, we lived in somebody else's house, because some of the kids got their houses, okay? So anyway, so finally, I said to Judy, "Let's go." Helen left. She left right away, because she knew Tibor. She had the key to his house in Prague. They fell in love. So she left maybe as soon as we found out that my father and brother were gone. So we're waiting, and so finally I said to Helen, to my sister Judy, I said, "Let's go and leave." So we're going to the train station, which is the next town, because we had no train station in my village. So we had to, I don't know if we went by bus or how, or I had no idea.
Walk.
Whatever. So Judy and I went, but then we were 3 days at the train station. So Judy says, "I'm going back home." One of the boys came back from the war. He got his house back. He wants to marry me. So she said, "He's a very nice young man. I like him." So she went back to my village, okay, which is 20 kilometers away. And 3 years later, they got married. And I left. I went to Prague. I went to Czechoslovakia.
Okay.
And so she stayed there. And actually, I never saw my sister again because she stayed there. And then in 1960, she got sick and she passed away. Anyway, so here we are in Prague, and while they're in Prague, they're looking for 1,000 Holocaust survivor children to take to England for rehabilitation. Okay? So my sister Helen says it would be a good idea for you to go to England. So she signed me up, and I went to England with this 1,000 children, all under 16. And we were taken care of. They were teaching us English. We're living in hostels. And after a while, the hostels were emptying out because a lot of the kids were finding relatives in the United States. So after being in England for about 2-3 years, okay, we all ended up in London. The hostels were closing down, so we ended up in London. And then I met my husband next. Actually, we were in another hostel in Bedford. They sent us to a hostel in Bedford. We were like 30 boys, and we were like from the Scotland group, 12 of us.
Scotland group.
Scotland group, right? Because the hostel was closing, and we went to Scotland, to Bedford, and they introduced us to the boys over there the next day. And I said, there was a young man in back row. I said, "I'm going to marry that guy." Very good-looking boy. He was born in Germany, Polish parents, and he was one of the hostel guys. And there were like 30 kids over there. So, of course, already, you know, all the non-Jewish girls from from Bedford, they used to come to the hostel. They like the boys. They know what's good. Okay, so Max, my husband actually, because it took me a while, but I got him. So if you're after somebody, don't ever give up. Remember that, okay? It took me about a year and a half to get him, and the hostel was emptying out in Bedford. We're moving to London, because, you know, we're all finding relatives in America, and they're taking us.
You're becoming independent.
They're becoming independent. We speak English already. So anyway, so we moved to London, and then we moved to London. Max and I started dating, because we lived in this. They would put us in homes where the government, well, the Jewish organization would pay for our help. Okay, so anyway, so we dated and we got married. We were the first couple to get married in London. We got married in 1950, and then Max's family in New York wrote to us saying, "Do you want to come to America?" I said, "That's my dream, is to come to America." So we came to the United States. Max and I was married already in 1951. Okay, and so we lived in New York for 5 years. I had a daughter in New York. And Max, my husband Max, found a relative in Brooklyn, Bensonhurst, okay? And he got an apartment over there. So anyway, so after being 5 years in New York, we just, some of our, you know, all the boys were, they had to go to the military, all the boys that came to this country. So my husband, he had the disease, and he was not a military person, okay?
He was 4F.
Yeah, 4F, right. So anyway, so after being in New York 5 years, he comes to San Diego for a visit for Christmas, because one of his friends was in the military, and he said, "Come visit, there's a good place here." So he came to visit my friend, and he never went back to New York. He calls me one day later, he says, "Rose, we are moving to San Diego." This was in 1956. And we already had a daughter in New York, okay? So, of course, it took me a while to get, because we had already an apartment and a daughter. And we had a beautiful 2-bedroom apartment in New York. His next uncle had a building. Anyway, so we came to New York, to San Diego in 56, April. Within 2 years, I had Ben, right? 2 years, I wasn't, 3 years.
Within a year, actually.
Yeah, I had Ben, and then 2.5 years later.
Two more chipmunks.
Yeah, 2 years later, I had 2 more kids. We have 4 kids, 9 grandkids, and 1 great-grandchild, and 1 on the way. And we are so thankful that we had the opportunity to come to this country. Remember, this is the best country in the world, okay? Anybody that wants to do anything they want, remember, do not ever give up hope, because you always have to have hope, and you'll make it whatever you want, okay? So thank you very much for listening to me. I haven't spoken, actually, it's the first time in the past 6 months or more. No,
You did great, Mom.
3 months.
Great.
Thank you very much for listening to me. And by the way, my book came out about 2 years ago, all the history, what happened to us during the war, okay? So if you're interested, we brought the books with us, okay? We'll be happy to sell it to you, okay? And I wish everybody a good life and a happy life and healthy life, okay? Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Rose, for sharing your story. Would you be open to answering a few questions?
Absolutely.
Okay. So those of you who have a question, bring your card up, come stand over here. If somebody would like to read some, here. All right. Come on over. If you have a question that you've written down on your card, just come get in line. If you have a question but you don't want to read it, you can just pass your card down and I'll collect them over here and I'll find somebody else to read it. She'll answer a few questions, and then for those of you who were able to, would like to purchase a book, I'll tell you what to do next, okay? So, the following questions have come in on a Google form from the people who are watching on live stream. I'm going to have a few of the students answer.
Hi, my name is Leanne, and the question is, what was winter like?
I couldn't.
What was winter like?
Winter. Well, let me tell you something. We were lucky that we were in a hostel where we were working and we had winter clothes. Okay, we were there in the winter. So.
What
yeah.
was winter like though? It
Oh,
was
very nice. Oh,
winter was
in Europe,
cold.
the winter comes in the spring. It comes in the fall and goes away in the spring. 5-6 months of snow in Europe. Yes, no problem.
Luckily, when she was in Auschwitz, she was there late spring, early summer, and
Right.
she left at the beginning of fall. Okay, so had she not gotten out of Auschwitz, it would have been very, very difficult to survive there in this minimal clothing during the winter.
Right, that's true.
My name is Katya. The question is, why did you share a bed in the barracks?
I couldn't
Why
hear.
did you share a bed in the barrack?
We didn't.
Well,
No, we had like bunk beds.
no, in Auschwitz.
Oh, in Auschwitz, we were like 6 or 8 people. It was just an open area. 3 rows of bunks, okay? We had no choice. We had to do what they told us to do.
They squeezed in 1,000 women or 1,000 men in any one of those barracks, and the only way it worked is if there was 4 or 5 people in every 4-foot bunk.
Yeah.
So you were just sandwiched together, and there was, they were on wood. There was nothing other than wood that they got to sleep on. No straw, no hay, no blankets, no anything.
We kept each other's bodies warm.
And every morning there were dead people in every barrack. Every morning.
Oh, yeah.
Hello, my name is Monet, and the question is, after you were deprived of food for so long, was your relationship with food different?
Ooh. So after you didn't get to eat for so long, was your relationship with food different? Were you more willing to eat other stuff, and did it change you being starved?
Well, there was so much time where we did not have food in Auschwitz, because we were there like 3 months. So when we were able to have food, that was like heaven, okay? We were very lucky because this was a very good factory where they wanted us to work there. We had no problem at all.
She's just about
Actually-
everything. She doesn't like spicy food. She never really learned spice.
When I was working in the factory, listen to this, for 10, 12 days, we worked like 12 hours or so. And then after being there 10, 12 days, I said to the lady that was giving out the food, I said, I should get an extra meal every day
This is at lunch.
at lunchtime. She says, sure, you could have an extra meal. So she would give me an extra meal every day, and I would take it to my barrack and share it with my 2 sisters.
So the last 7.5 months of their incarceration as slave laborers, she was able to rebuild her body.
Right.
So if you see that picture of her after the war with that Russian soldier, she's got all the meat on her bones she should have because of that.
My name is Ben, and my question is, what was it like being free after the Holocaust?
What was it like being free? What you didn't describe is when that Russian soldier took you by the hand, what did you feel?
We felt like we were in heaven.
You were
We were
reborn?
back to, right, reborn.
That's the word she
Reborn,
uses.
right.
So when the Russian soldier took her by the hand and they started walking into town that first day after liberation, she felt
I couldn't believe it that this really happened, okay, after what we went through.
So it was like a rebirth,
Yeah,
fresh start. And, you know, you guys can probably relate. She's 15 and she's got no parents either. Think of the possibilities. It's sad, but as a 15-year-old, think of the possibilities.
My name is Jason, and the question is, what made you want to stay alive and motivated to survive during the camps?
what made me want to stay alive? Because my father said, don't give up hope. Make sure you survive this war so you can tell the whole world what's happening to us. Okay?
Hi, my name is Liam. I have two questions from online here. The first is, how old were you when you went to the concentration camp?
I was 14
Yep, 14 and a half.
and a half.
The second question is, do you speak any Hungarian?
You
Yeah.
know?
You speak some Hungarian.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Beszélsz magyarul?
See, there you go.
Does anybody speak Hungarian?
You know, it was Liam. The thing about the age, everybody, the age is
Hogy vagy? Hogy vagy? How are you? Huh?
take your mask off. So you guys have to realize she's 14 years old in this camp called Auschwitz where no one's supposed to be under 18. No one's supposed to be in there under 18 unless they've been given a job that only a kid can do and they keep them alive as a kid purposely.
Take your mask
That's
off.
the thing.
Beszélsz magyarul?
Igen, anyukám meg az apukám mind a ketten magyarok.
Nagyon jó. Where do you come from?
My mom grew up in Budapest.
Uh-huh.
My dad grew up in Csongrád.
Where?
Budapest and Csongrád.
Where is that?
I don't know.
So
Budapest
she's-
is the capital.
I know Budapest is a
I don't
capital.
know where Csongrád
The
is.
village I didn't know, because I come from a village.
I'm not
Rose
sure
is
about-
from what would be now considered Western Ukraine. So
Near Uzhhorod.
Czechoslovakia was that weird country that was part Slovakia, part Czech, part Hungary, all mixed together after World War I as part of the armistice. And that country only lasted until 1944, and then it was over. And so now Seredne is still next to Uzhhorod and Munkac. Those are the two main towns. You still find them on the map. And it's far western Ukraine
Mhm.
now.
So
So
how
she's
long are
really
you in
Ukrainian.
America?
I grew up here, but
Oh,
I
you
was
grew
born
up here.
My parents taught me the language growing up.
That's good.
So where do you live?
I live. Wait, what do you mean?
I mean, in
lives
San
around here.
Diego.
Oh, I live here.
Yeah, in
I
Penasquitos.
know you live here, but do you live in?
Penasquitos, because this is a school.
Penasquitos,
This is a
right.
Penasquitos school.
Thank you.
Köszönöm szépen.
Okay, well, if your parents are here, right? If you ever want to come to tell your parents, we'd love to meet them. Okay, you will get the address from the teachers.
Okay.
Köszönöm.
Köszönöm szépen.
Hi, my name is Sarah, and I have a question from online. It says, were you always fearful of the gas chamber?
I couldn't hear
We're
you.
always fearful of the gas chamber.
Was I fearful of the gas chamber?
What you knew about them, did they scare you?
Well, we knew, of course we were scared. That's why every time they would come to select people to go to factories to work, and the skinny people, they would not send to factories to work. They would put them in a different line. So we would be, being in Auschwitz-Birkenau for about 3 months or more. That's a place you come and you go. Nobody stays in that long. But, you know, I didn't give up hope that maybe someday I'll have enough flesh on my body, but I can get out of here, okay? So, thank you.
We've got one more question, a student question, and then I've got a question. So the student question is, how was the train ride, tell us a little bit about the train ride from your village to Auschwitz. Can you share a little bit about that?
Tell me this,
In the cattle car.
in the cattle car, there must have been 70, 80 people in every cattle car. You couldn't move around. There was no bathroom. Of course, there was no bathroom. Even in this country, in 1943, there were no bathrooms in the cattle cars. Okay? So, we did what we could to do the best. That's all that matters.
People died standing up in the cattle cars.
People
They literally died and
Half
they
the
couldn't
people-
fall down. There was no room to move. They
Half the
squeezed them in.
people, more than half the people died in the trains. Okay?
Yeah, I was gonna ask a question.
Do you
You
have
know
any-
something, young man, come closer. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you have any hard feelings moving back to America and knowing that they didn't do anything while you were enduring what you were going through?
What could we do? America didn't do nothing. Roosevelt, he could have done it, but he didn't. You know that? Roosevelt was not a good man.
So how did you feel about him when you moved to America?
Well, he wasn't president anymore.
Right.
No, we came to America in 1951. Okay, and who was
Truman
president?
probably?
Yes, yes. I mean, they opened the gates for all the survivors. And actually, after a lot of problems were going on in this country, like all the survivors who wanted to come, if you did not have relatives, there was 100,000 people from Europe that could come to America without their papers. But we came with, my husband had an uncle, so we came with a relative who sent us papers.
Thank
But
you.
it was a good thing that they opened up this country for the people, okay?
Yeah, about a year after or a year and a half later, they opened up the quota for refugees. There's still so many people in displaced persons camps still at that point.
People were in camps for 2-3
that-
years.
You know, Europe needed to be rebuilt, so they just decided to allow a bunch more people in.
Did Great Britain open up sooner than the United
No,
States?
Great Britain was stricter because they have real strict labor laws, and they wouldn't, even these kids, they only got, the British Home Office, with Churchill, allowed up to 1,000 of these kids, even though they were fully paid for by the different Jewish philanthropies, only up to 1,000, and they had to be 16 or under because at 16 is the working age in Britain. You can't take a job from a British man.
Oh.
Of course, it was men back then. Now it's humans. But so and some of the kids, these orphans that had nowhere to go, that heard about this guy Montefiore who started this whole thing, they lied. So some of them were already 16, some of them were 17 and a quarter, some of them were barely 18. And there was a few little ones and young ones too, but mostly they were. If you just think about it, you know, if you're 9, 10, 11 and you're on your own in a camp, you're not going to make it.
There's no 9 and 10-year-old
Right, they're all just
survived anyway.
But she's at that age, your guys' age, where you can almost put up with anything as you develop. And that's this little sweet spot of these few
Whatever,
groups that survived, that were born between like 1929 and 1932, maybe not even that, 31, 27 to 31. It's a very narrow range.
just remember one thing, kids. If you have a bad day one day, remember tomorrow is going to be better, okay? Don't give up hope. Never give up hope, all right?
Okay, question.
Actually, I just, because of the time, I just wanted to say thank you. You've been coming to our school for many years. I appreciate you coming and being here again. The students that are in the room right now are my 8th grade students, and as we've learned a little bit about the Holocaust, you've helped us to make history come alive. So thank you very, very much for being here.
You're very welcome. If anybody's interested in history, everything is in the book. It tells you I tell you, when I wrote the book, I said to my kids, I had to hold some of it was so bad that I couldn't even put it in the book. So horrible it was. But everything is 100% correct, what's in the book.
And it really touched me to hear your father's words to you, that stay alive and tell your story. And he'd be so proud of you of what you've done to share your story. I know this is not you've been at Black Mountain many times, and you've shared your story with your book, and we appreciate so much this gift of you being here with us. So thank
I'm
you.
so glad that I can still do it. Remember, I'm going to be 92 in 2 months, and there's very few of us left anymore.
Well, you look great, and we're so glad you're here.
Thank you, I'm glad I came.
So for those of you who would like to purchase a book, what I'll have you do is grab your payment. You're gonna line up over there where Miss White is. For those that are live streaming in from the classroom, like to purchase a book, those students can come down to the theater right now and you can